Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday. If you're on here, get those likes up. Get those likes up. Tag anybody on this discussion. Share it with someone that you think might find it interesting. Um, I'm just gonna get right into it, y'all. I'm gonna get right into it. Hey, what's going on? You guys chat. I see I'm here to start the show. All right. So by now you guys are very familiar with this feud that is going on between Monique and Hughley that started a few days ago, I think sometime last week. Now they're just going back and forth about contracts, about who was meant to be the headliner. Y'all, it's just a mess. It really is just a mess. But I wanted to talk about this scenario because I do think it highlights just a few important things in general, especially as it relates to the Black community and Black women. So before I get into my thought, my perspective on this whole thing, I'm going to read briefly through what's going on and give you guys just an update of what's happening, and then we're going to go from there. So guys, if you are hopping on here, hit that like button. Also, if you'd like to show support to the show, you can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Shay Sade. And as always, I will be sure to acknowledge and read our super chats. So let me bring up one of the latest. Yeah, like I said, this has been happening over the last few days, so it seems like every few hours there's some news. But it's just embarrassing. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie. I think it's just embarrassing and just unnecessary. Okay. So I think this posted, a few hours ago around 1 o'clock. So as far as I know, this is the latest and the greatest. It says Monique and D.L. Hughley get in heated beef disputing who was headliner of comedy show. It says Monique told the audience that D.L. Hughley crossed the line with her, claiming he refused to perform if she was headliner. Okay. Already I'm thinking, I mean, there's like a whole 10-minute audio clip, y'all. I may actually play that later on to give y'all a sense. But there's like a whole 10-minute audio. And that's like, okay, there were issues regarding the contract. If there were issues regarding who was doing who, why would you even sign up for the show? That's like my first thing, because I'm like, I'm assuming there no, like she knew, he knew going into the scenario who was going to go, who was going to go first. Like she knew that he had words to say before the contract was even signed. So to me, that already doesn't even make sense. Like if you had beef with this dude, why is it coming out now? So it kind of seems a little bit messy, honestly. But like I said, we're going to continue and get into it. Shout out to Young East with the 5 on the super chat. I see Shay with the head wrap. You know, I got to switch it up from time to time, y'all. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna get into it. I say I love you, but you don't have to make this about Black women. No, I actually do, and I'm gonna tell you why. But I'm gonna read through first. And get into it. And you say, why do we racially profile ourselves? We actually really don't. We're already racially profiled. So whether or not we think it's good or not good, that's just kind of reality of being a minority in this nation. So it's like, I think it's better to acknowledge that and then to navigate accordingly versus just to kind of act like it doesn't exist or to just, act like it doesn't affect us. So again, I'm going to get into it. As to why I wanted to. I think this is something that we can talk about the Black community, but I want to focus on Black women again, because she specifically, over the years, she has made statements to Black women, even in her speech about her like 10-minute monologue where she really goes in on him. She referenced Black women. She's like, Black women do this, do that. I love my people. So she makes it about Black women. She makes it about the Black community sometimes. And so again, that's why it was appropriate for me to do that, for those of you guys who are wondering. So I'm gonna get right into the argument. It says Monique and DL Hughley are hashing it out on social media. On Saturday night, Monique, 54, performed during the comedy Explosion presented by 105 Kiss FM at Fox Theater in Detroit. During her set, the Oscar winner spoke about Hughley, 59, claiming he had refused to perform at the event if she were listed as a headliner per fan video from her time on stage. It says about Hughley, she referenced a contract and said, I'm 30 plus years in this MF in business. There's a lot of F-bombs, you guys, in her 10-minute monologue. And I don't open for nobody. The contract said the headliner. She said Hughley crossed the line with her and mentioned they had history. You F with the wrong one, said Monique, as the crowd cheered after about 10 minutes. She then said, now let's start with the show. Literally, y'all, first 10 minutes, she was ranting and raving about going back and forth, what was happening, their history, why she was upset. Obviously, she was upset. Always she was triggered. After that 10 minutes, she got into the comedy act. It says the comedian actress who said her energy is a little different because of the behind-the-scenes contract dispute that night also made reference to her public feud with celebrities like Oprah Winfrey, Steve Harvey, and Tyler Perry, saying she doesn't bully anyone, but she will stand up for herself. Later on Sunday, Hughley responded on Instagram alongside a photo of Monique in the 2009 movie Precious. All you have to do is check the order of the names on the ticket stub from last night, and you'll see who's confused. Against my better judgment, over the abduction of my team and 4 other occasions where I said no, I decided to take a chance and work with Monique. So y'all, again, real quick, she gets on stage basically and just puts it all out there. She's upset, she's triggered, she's mad, she just puts everything out there, y'all. She basically goes back and forth into whatever history that they have, talking about that evidently in the past he had shaded her career and said something about the contract, said that he wouldn't perform unless he was a headliner, but she was supposed to be the headliner. So I mean, she's big mad. She is big mad on that stage, puts it all out there. DL Hughley goes on to respond the following day. Let me get into it briefly. Oops, where'd it go? Okay. So here's a response he got. Because she's basically saying, I was supposed to be the headliner. That's her main beat. I'm supposed to be the headliner. We signed a contract. After we signed the contract, it switched up on me. Now, it's his fault. It's his fault. His response is, look, all you have to do is check the order of names on the ticket stub from last night and you'll see who's confused. Against my better judgment over the objections of my team and 4 other occasions where I said no. I decided to take a chance and work with Monique. So it sounds like he is saying that there had already be different times in the past where he was supposed to be working with her and he was like, no, no, no. People in his team was like, don't work with her. She does have a reputation, for better or for worse. She does have a reputation. He decided to take a chance on her, and now it blew up in his face. He said Oprah was the problem, Tyler Perry was the problem, Charlamagne was the problem, Steve Harvey was the problem, Lee Daniels was the problem, Netflix was the problem. Now it's my turn. At some point, it cannot be everyone else. It's you. Lesson learned. I didn't have anything personal against Monique. People pay a lot of money to laugh, not to hear about your contract. Apparently the role you played in Precious turned out to be an autobiography. I wonder who's next. Crazy. So that's his response, y'all. So again, he's like, here we go again. Here's another situation where you are the victim, where somebody took advantage of you. Here's another situation where they did you dirty, where they did you wrong. It was Lee Daniels, it was Oprah Winfrey, it was Steve Harvey, it was Netflix, it was Charlamagne, it was whatever. Now it's my turn. So right, so he's basically just saying, okay, if we just look at the track record, let's just step back and look at the track record of the individual in this scenario. If she has a track record of everybody else doing her wrong and her always being the victim, and now here we are again in another scenario and she's still the victim, like, who was a common denominator in that scenario? So that's essentially what his point is. And he's like, if you look at the contract, if you look at the receipts, or if you actually look at the program or whatever, you will see who's a headliner. That was his response, right? Then you would think that it stops there. It doesn't. It does not stop there. She claps back. Let me see. She basically claps back and it's just like, you're saying all this stuff, you're using the bill, but you're not actually using the contract. I mess with contracts. She even said in her monologue, she's like, I F with contracts. And she's like, you're saying all this stuff, but you don't have no proof. So what does he do? He pulls out receipts. It says Hughley posted images of a redacted deal memo that listed him as closing the show, plus a schedule for the comedy night that he had him performing last night. And then he wrote in the captions, all caps, receipts, opinions, got everything that was stated in my contract. She fired back showing photos of her contract. Then he fired back, going back and saying, wait, that's not even the real contract. That's a contract that you submitted under Hicks Media. Like, really? And then that's where we ended off. He literally ended off saying, Hughley soon responded by inspecting the document that Monique shared, saying, Hicks Media Incorporated, hold up. That's you. You really showing everybody a contract you submitted from your own company. I smell bulls. Sounds to me like your problem is with Hicks Media Incorporated. So, like I said, they went back and forth all over this whole headliner thing. I mean, so we'll see if anything else comes of it. I hope not. But nevertheless, it's been trending everywhere. I've been seeing it. People Magazine picked it up. Yahoo Magazine picked it up. I saw a few other major headliners pick it up. Like, just two multimillionaires or two well-respected comedians beefing over who was a headliner. To me, it seems totally and completely unnecessary. But now here's why this is important. And here's why I say this proves why Black women are at the bottom. Hey guys, if you're on here, get those likes up. Tag everybody on the question. Share with someone. Also, if you'd like to show support to the show, you can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Shay Charday. And as always, I will be sure to acknowledge all super chats and read all super chats. But here is my position as to why I think this is a reflection. Why Black women, we continue to remain at the bottom. Now, what do I mean when I say that? Now, I'm talking bottom socioeconomically, obviously, health-wise, socially. I mean, we can go down the list. We, unfortunately, as a community, even as Black women, there are different strides that are being made, but there are also still many places where we fall behind. Poverty, right? Like, there's just, the list goes on. And some of the stuff, of course, some of the stuff is systematic. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's It's just completely one thing. Like, yeah, there are systematic things, there are racial things. There have been different things historically that have specifically targeted Black men and women. So yes, I totally acknowledge that exists. But there is also, unfortunately, we have to reckon with the fact that as Black folks, especially as Black women, whether or not we like it, there are assumptions about us that are being made. There are stereotypes that we have to contend with, especially when we go into positions of power or positions where there's money. There's stereotypes we have to contend with. There's all these different things that we have to navigate. And what happened right here with this whole scenario, Monique, no matter how you put it, she's spoken for Black women in the past. She has spoken to Black women in the past. Even in her 10-minute monologue, she was speaking to Black women. But unfortunately, what she did was make herself look like a fool. At the end of the day, she said in there she was fighting for her people. She said in there that, although she was upset and she was triggered, she wanted to come on. She wanted to do what she wanted to do to show up for her people. But she spent the entire time throwing out F-bombs. She spent the entire time throwing out the N-word like it was nothing. She spent the entire time dragging D.L. Hughley, dragging the promoters, dragging everybody who was every single person who was involved in that whole scenario. And I get it. She was mad. I get it. She was mad. I get it that she was upset. But what she did in that scenario was make herself look a fool. And unfortunately, her being a woman that has prestige, her being a woman that has spoken, essentially been a spokeswoman for Black women, for lack of a better term. She has spoken to Black women on a mass. Her being in that position of power, her being in that position of influence, what she did is continue to feed into the stereotype that Black women are loudmouth, aggressive, big, mad, angry. She fed into that stereotype, unfortunately. And here's the thing, whether or not her points were valid, whether or not everything that she was saying was true, whether or not she was taken advantage of or not, the way that she handled it, the way that it was handled in that moment by, like I said, throwing D.L. Hughley under the bus, who was a main headliner, throwing everybody under the bus, all the promoters, making herself look like a victim. At the end of the day, it just made her look bad, period. And even if you look at what D.L. Hughley had said earlier, he was like, I was already told not to work with her. Why? Because she has a reputation. She has a reputation of being hard to deal with. And she said, oh, they don't want to work with me because I have a Black husband. If you look at her speech, in one of her monologues, she says, oh, I have a Black husband. They don't like me because I have a Black husband. They don't like me because of this, because of that. But really, at the end of the day, what's also not addressed is, okay, is it just because of the Black husband, or is it also because of how you handle scenarios or how you handle these situations? I can respect somebody being like, listen, this contract doesn't work for me. This scenario doesn't work for me. I'm going to respectfully decline. But what happened was she got into a scenario, decided to take it on, decided to do the show, right? And then instead of handling those things behind the scenes with the promoters to give the audience a good show, to keep them out of the business, she put it all on Front Street. And it just looks ghetto, y'all. It just looks bad. And I know she said she's fighting for people. I know she says that she's doing whatever, but what we forget, this is what I say all the time about Black women, whether or not we want to accept it. Black folks, whether or not we want to accept it, especially when you get into positions of power or when you get into positions of influence, you essentially are representing. You are whether or not you want to. People are looking at you. People outside of the Black of the community are looking at you as the representation of that community, and this is what she has also positioned herself as. She has said Black woman this, Black woman that. She speaks. She works for Black women. She works on behalf of the people. And her behavior right there did nothing but to just reinforce, unfortunately, negative stereotypes. And this is why I hate when we see that Black folks drama and Feud. It always gets popularized. I mean, if we think of that whole situation with the slap and Will Smith a few months ago, where there was real, better term, some domestic violence, for lack of a better term, like this two Black men feuding in a professional platform. Like there's a disagreement and then you take it violent. And it's just like that, that BC scenario stereotypes about Black men being violent. And now here's another scenario where it's two Black folks who maybe there's a disagreement. or there's a misunderstanding between the managers. Because I'm like, I mean, ultimately, it would be her manager or it would be her promoter who would be handling the behind the scenes stuff. But instead of handling that privately, instead of handling it in a way that is professional or handling it in a way that would not bring all this drama on the front street and create a whole, I mean, just create a whole show. Instead of handling that way in a way that's professional, now everybody's in it. Now you got the media talking about this. Now you got everybody looking at this. And what this means at the end of the day, most people are looking at, I won't say most people, but a lot of people are looking at this as here is just a angry Black woman that is always complaining about something. That's really what it is. They're looking at her as this is an angry Black woman, an out of control, aggressive, masculine Black woman that continues to complain. And like I said, as Black women, we already have to contend with that stereotype. Like if you work in corporate situations or you work in really any scenario where you're with people of power or you're with around other ethnicities, you already have to contend with those preconceived notions. So when you are in a place of influence and then you go ballistic and you just get openly angry or you handle things in a way that's unprofessional, it just makes you look bad. Again, guys, if you're on here, get those likes up, y'all. Get those likes up. Shout out to Young East for the 2 on the super chat. I see she fat. Are you talking about Monique? Well, Monique has always been she's always been plus size. Even when she had that show, she was plus size. But I do appreciate that. Also, y'all, like I said, hit the Cash App, hit the Venmo. So I see we at the bottom where, yeah. So when I'm talking about at the bottom, and I mentioned before, for better or for worse, good health, socially, economically, poverty. Yes, there are Black women who are doing strides. Yeah, they talk about there's a lot of Black women who are going to college. We also have more debt though, and we have little assets. Your average Black woman today, I think, has about $5 of assets. So when I'm looking at the collective of Black women, while there are strides and there's different things happening to try to make it to where we can do better, and I'm all for that, we still have to contend with the reality that many of us still are not doing well. Again, when I'm talking about, we look at the poverty, when we look at, socioeconomically, when we look at even our perception, our image, forget about all those things, look at the perception. There's a lot of Black female YouTubers out there who are talking about, okay, trying to change our perception. Chrissy, what is it? Talks about corrective promotioning. So all these things that we have to contend with. And unfortunately, when there's situations like this and Black women look bad or Black women act in a manner that is unprofessional, it's just another nail in the coffin. And the image and the perception of us, that's already bad, period. Now you can agree with me, you can disagree, that's fine. Like I said, this is just my opinion on this. But this kind of behavior is what will reinforce and what will continue to keep not only Black women, but the Black community as a whole not progressing. Because like I said, what's happening, she took this in her own hands and says, look, I'm not, she blasted everybody, all her promoters, she blasted D.L. Hughley, she blasted everybody. Now, do you think after this whole show was done, do you think now there's going to be a lot of people calling her, people in Hollywood or whatever, calling her, trying to give her a new show, trying to give her a new deal, when she already has a reputation for being hard to deal with, she already has a reputation for being unprofessional? And that's the thing about it. Unfortunately, sometimes even when we do get in situations where we can do better, or we get in situations where we can progress, if we don't know how to act in a way that is professional, or you take street politics into a professional setting, then it can also undermine your success. And here's the thing about it too. One thing I noticed so far about following her is that while there's been a consistent theme really of her being taken advantage of from all these people. Like she said Lee Daniels, talked about Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, Charlamagne, Netflix, all these people who've taken advantage of her, which might be true. But I have never, and correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, but I have never heard her once say, okay, but I was wrong here, or I could have done that better, or okay, well, maybe I this or that. Like, I've never really heard also a big level of accountability. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, and let me know in the comments if I'm wrong here, if she has been highly accountable on other different things. But what I've seen what I've seen consistently is this victim mentality of I am always being taken advantage of. And there might be there obviously might be some truth to that. I'm not saying that it's not, but the way to handle that is not to act in a professional manner, throw everybody in the bus in the front street, be loud and aggressive, and then feeding the stereotypes. Because that's the kind of stuff, unfortunately, if you handle it that way, is going to get you from not getting the call, or not getting that promotion, or not getting the contract that you wanted. When we handle things in that way, that's why in the whole scenario with Chris Rock when he was slapped, yeah, you had people just like, oh, he should have hit him back, he should have this and that, but he handled it in a really professional manner. Although Will Smith did something out of pop, he didn't respond that way. He kept his cool. He continued to move on. And then you see, like the next day, I mean, his tickets skyrocketed. People saw that, and the level of respect for him went way up. Even though he was put in a compromising situation that was out of his control and that was unfair, people looked at the way he handled that and said, you know what, that's a person I can respect. Even if I don't agree with everything, even if I don't like all of his jokes, I can respect the way that he handled that scenario when he was under pressure. So that's what I'm saying. Women, especially Black women, when we get into those kinds of scenarios where we're influenced and we think we can still act a fool and yell, or we can justify that behavior because we're taken advantage of, unfortunately, that is what keeps us from progressing. And again, because we already have that stereotype as a collective, I'm not saying this is every Black woman, I'm not saying this is everybody, but I'm just saying we already know this. I mentioned this in my community tab earlier. Nobody looks at marrying into the Black community as a level up. Nobody does that. There is not another ethnic group out there that's just like, oh, yes, marry a Black woman to, oh, you know what I mean? Like, you don't see Indian communities promoting that, or Chinese communities promoting that, or Korean communities promoting that, or Mexican. You don't see that. So I'm like, most cultures aren't looking into marrying into the Black community as a level up. Now, of course, individually, things are different. But I'm just saying, we are judged, unfortunately, as a collective. And Monique, somebody who has essentially positioned herself as a representative of Black women, what she did in that moment was just reinforce stereotypes. And even if she was justified in her feelings, and even if she was justified and she was taken advantage of, that was not the way to handle it. And if as Black women, we think that we can do that, and that's going to progress us socially, economically, career-wise, that's going to change the overall status of the Black community. No, that kind of stuff is what keeps us at the bottom. And we can talk about what that means to be at the bottom, but like I said, we already know, if we really are honest with ourselves, we already know that the perception is not that great, that there's a lot of room for improvement. That's what I'm saying. So, and it's that kind of behavior. All it takes is one. All it takes is that one person, that one, or those couple of videos each year that go viral. And unfortunately, the media runs off of that. The media likes to run off of Black drama. It likes to run off of just a drama period and people feuding, but especially when Black folks are, Black entertainers are feuding, or Black entertainers are messed. Like that is what really drives the engine. And so when we feed into that, it just continue to perpetuate old stereotypes, old misconceptions, bad misconceptions, and it's toxic. So again, guys, if you're on here, hit the like button. Hit the like button. And if you're on here, like I said, and if you would like to show the show, you can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Day. Also, shout out to Better You with the 5. Shout out to Better You with the 5. So, y'all, that's really my point. That's really my point. Of course, these are multimillionaires, or at the very least, they're going to be okay. So it's like they're in a whole different class. And let me see, I'm seeing some few comments come through. Yeah, y'all, like I said, yeah. So this whole situation, I think, it's just unfortunate. I mean, it'll eventually blow over, but I'm like I said, you got Yahoo picked it up. I think CNN picked it up, or if not CNN, some People magazine picked it up. You have some pretty reputable large scenarios pick this up, as to be expected. And to me, it's just some more Black folks bickering, unfortunately. And This is the kind of stuff and again, this is just my opinion, but this is the kind of stuff that I say continues to just continues to just feed into narratives about the Black community being dramatic, and especially that Black women are hard to deal with. That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. So it's like those of you guys out there who are saying, "Oh well, this is just her. This isn't all Black women, yada yada." And I agree. This is just Monique, but she has positioned herself as a spokesperson for Black women. If you go in the past when she's spoken to Black women about different things, she even spoke to Black women in her lecture. She herself has done this. She had sitcoms. She had different shows. So it's like, whether or not we want to agree or we like this or we agree with this, we're being profiled all the time. People are making judgments about us all the time. That there's no way to get around that. If you are in America and you have been in America, that is the reality of America. People are judged by first impressions, and then when it comes to race, they're generally judged upon their race. Black women, we do not have the best reputation. We just don't. There's certain things that are changing. There's certain strides, yes, but we still have a lot of stereotypes to contend with. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't be crying about colorism, featureism, texturism all the time. We wouldn't be crying about, marriage and why aren't men marrying us? Why are they marrying out? All these things that we complain about, or all these things that we are sad about, speak to the fact that there are areas where we are not progressing, and there are areas where we don't feel like we're doing as well. Right? If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't be bickering about those things or complaining about those things. So by nature of those complaints, we can see that, yes, there are areas where we're at the bottom. And what does not help is that when there are opportunities for us to respond with class or opportunities for us to just respond professionally, and then we feed into stereotypes. If we already know that the perception of most Black women is that they're hard to deal with and that they are big bad, they're aggressive, if we already know that's a stereotype to contend with, and you may not even be that way. You might be just naturally a more quiet, a more compliant personality, but because that's a stereotype that you may have to contend with depending upon where you're at. Any time that you step outside of that, then, like I said, it's just another nail in the coffin. And that, in this scenario, is what I think happened. She had, she could be right. She had every right to be mad if what she said was true. Because right now, all we have is he said, she said. It's just a he said, she said stuff. And I'm like, y'all really couldn't have handled this behind closed doors between your managers and promoters, like. Because, most of us, we're not lawyers. We can't look at those contracts we're posting and say, oh, yes, technically it said. We don't know if she said this, he said that. It's just a big mess. But I'm like, y'all really couldn't handle that behind closed doors. But she put it all out on Front Street. And so my main thing is she had a right to be upset if what she said is true. She had a right. But the way to handle that was unprofessional. And as a woman who says that she is speaking to Black women, that kind of behavior, especially if we start to move into other ethnicities, if we're going into places where there's power, where there's influence, where there's politics, there's politics, you got to look at your attitude. That kind of behavior is what will keep you from getting that promotion. That kind of behavior is what will keep you from getting that next contract. That kind of behavior is what will brand you. And Hughley, he even said already, he's like, yeah, people were telling me not to work with her. I had different people on my team tell me not to work with her. He confirmed it. And she already has a reputation. So again, unfortunately, whether or not you agree or disagree, unfortunately, when you act in that manner, and when we act in those manners, we act out of pocket. When we act aggressive and angry and big man, and we're throwing all kinds of N-words and F-bombs and dragging all our promoters and the producers and everybody on there, you can't tell me that's professional. And you also can't be surprised if you are blacklisted from the very people in that industry. So you can agree or disagree all you want. That's fine. But like I said, these little things, I talk about this because I don't know if it's sometimes, there's a lack of awareness or just not wanting, or just wanting to try to treat yourself separately and wanting to treat yourself as if, oh, well, that's them over there and that's me. And that's true. Like we are individuals. But if you've been in America for any length of time, especially if you're a Black man, like Black men, I think generally don't have a hard time accepting that they are first judged, or they are generally presumed guilty, or they usually have to work hard towards certain things before they're proven otherwise. So we already know this. So that is all I am to say especially as Black women, if you do want to get into positions that are better off socially, economically, whatever, you're gonna you're gonna have to just do better, act professionally, take the higher road. She even made reference to it in her video about taking the higher road, let go and let God, right? Is that's one of my favorite actually one of my favorite mottos, right? Where there's certain things that you gotta learn how to choose your battles. She was kind of mocking that motto when she's like, no, God told me that I need to take these things in my own hand, and then she proceeded to do all kinds of F bombs and just act a fool. And like I said, is that kind of behavior, is that going to be the thing that's going to open the doors for you to get in a higher class, or to level up, or to get that promotion that you want, or to get that contract, or to get that new client or that new business deal? If you have a reputation of not knowing how to handle professional matters professionally, is that going to help you in the long term? Probably not. And we see this, unfortunately, we see this kind of behavior among Black women, everything from twerking on restaurants, twerking on Walmart, twerking on funeral caskets, twerking on kids and music videos. We see this kind of behavior among, I'm not even saying it's all Black women. It could be, for all I know, it could be 5% of Black women. It could be a very small percentage, but unfortunately, those are the images that get promoted. And if we don't call it out for what it is and say, hey, this is a problem, we should make it clear that this is not how you handle business. This is not how you handle disputes. Then we will continue to remain at the bottom, at the very least socially, at the very least marriage-wise. Do you think? Let's just say I'm talking only about marriages, and I say, okay, Black women are at the bottom when it comes to marriages. Let's just focus on that. Forget about all the other stuff, socially, economically, poverty. When it looks at assets, looks at health, weight. Forget about all that. Let's just look at, okay, Black women's marriage rates. Do you think most men in their right mind, and Grant, we know that she's married, God bless her and her husband, but I'm just thinking generally speaking, are most men going to sign up for a scenario to be with a woman that can be that aggressive? And I'm trying to think of how not to say that in a way that's offensive, but you know what I mean? Like, I think I already know the answer to that question. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, ladies, that like, there's just a way to handle yourself, especially when you are trying to get into certain positions. If you're trying to get into especially multicultural settings, or getting to settings that have, you have a higher access to wealth, or you have a higher access to whatever it may be, you're trying to improve and that's not the way that you handle it. And if you do, unfortunately, you might start to see the repercussions of that, i.e. being blacklisted, i.e. other people not wanting to hire you. And, for a while, because I listened to her when she talked about other people cooning, and I actually thought, okay, like maybe she's onto something, because in Hollywood, unfortunately, sometimes you do have to do certain things. You do have to do certain things in order to move ahead, and those things can be demeaning. So like, I was like, yeah, I feel her, like she could be right. But now I'm starting to recognize, I'm starting to question, okay, is it all that? Is she really just having a hard time moving forward just because she's Black, or just because her husband is Black and he's her manager? Or is also some of it attitude? Is also some of it how she might tend to deal or handle with some of these different scenarios? In this scenario right here, the way this was handled causes me to believe that it might be actually more of a mixture of both. It might be not just that, in Hollywood, there might be some discrimination, but also it might be her attitude. Y'all, that's just my perception. That's just my perception. So really, like I said, that's really what I had to say on the matter. At the end of the day, hopefully this moves over fast. But I was disappointed. Honestly, I was disappointed to see it happen this way, because I'm like, even if everything she said was right, first of all, I'm like, if everything she said was right, then why did she even accept the contract? That, to me, that's confusing, because I'm like, if you knew that you were with somebody who thought that you weren't good enough to be the headliner, and you found that offensive, then why even take the contract? So at the gate, to me, that was confusing. But moving forward, like, okay, if you don't like them or if you don't like the whole setup, wouldn't that be something your managers or your producers would handle behind the scenes? Wouldn't that something you maybe have a meeting with, you deal with that privately, as not to really undermine your own reputation, as not to undermine the reputation of maybe that the company you're working with? Like, I just think it could have been handled better. And the fact that it wasn't, we'll see. I'll be curious to see if she's going to get a lot more opportunities after this, or if this is kind of, if it's going to be more of the same after, if it's going to be some silence, and if it's going to be her not getting as many opportunities. Because unfortunately, if a person does have the reputation of being hard to deal with, especially Black women, and then you have one or two scenarios where you kind of feed into that, that can work against you. Yeah, I see she was headliner on her contract. Y'all, they're putting contracts out there. If you really want to go and get all the details, it's out there. I mean, Shade Room posted all about it. There's different YouTubers. I'm like, I'm not a lawyer. So them posting screenshots of their contract to me means little to nothing. I'm like, at the end of the day, y'all should be handling this with lawyers and with your producers. Like, I don't need to sit here and try to read through the fine print. It just seems like a mess. But the bigger picture is, you guys, this is not how we should handle business. In my opinion, some of y'all may agree, or some of y'all may disagree, but this is not how we handle things. And unfortunately, when women or when people in positions of power, let's say, like I said, you could be that black, you could be that token Black person in whatever company or whatever it may be. When you're in a position of power and influence, especially as a Black woman, because we already have negative stereotypes to contend with, if we do something that reinforces it, it's just another nail in a coffin. We already have something to contend with. If she'd have been a Korean woman, let's just pretend Monique was a Korean woman 1 second. Like, first of all, it's probably hard to believe that would even happen. But if she was, I just tend to think there'd be an overall different response. She might be treated a little bit differently, who knows? But because she's already, let's just be honest, she is a darker skinned Black woman, heavy set. She's been heavy set, almost all of her life. So she's already coming in the entertainment business. She's already coming in with those strikes against her and with those perceptions against her. Now, when she speaks and she acts in such a particular way, it just brands her even further. It brands her as the hard to deal with, hard to deal with personality. And even if she is right in all of her complaints, and even if everything she said is valid and she really has been victimized in every single scenario, the way that she handled it, people are not going to listen. They're just going to say, this is just another nagging, complaining, aggressive Black woman. They're not going to hear a word that she says, unfortunately. And that's another thing too. When we handle things improperly, what we really want doesn't get done, because people start maybe tuning out to our complaints or tuning out to what we're trying to say, because they've already branded us. They've already said, nope, I'm not going to listen to you. Just complain. You're just that stereotype, unfortunately. So, that's just my thought. And like I said, I could totally understand her being upset. She has every right to be upset. I just think the way this handled it not only did, I don't think it made her look good. I think the fact that she went on stage and decided to talk to Black women and say Black woman this, Black woman that, and then talked about how she's treated wrong because of the Black community, and she made this a female thing. She made this a community thing. I was like, okay, now it's fair game. It's fair game. You're making this issue an issue with Black women. You're making this issue an issue about the Black community. Now we have to talk about it. And I tend to think that although some of the things that she said might be true, what's really going on is that there is also sometimes this behavior that we can engage in as Black women that can undermine our success. So what's going on, Malarkey? What's going on? I see morning, Sister Shay, nearly 12:30 morning over here in London, England. Good to have you. Good to have you here. Yeah, I see some of you guys kind of coming in here late, asking about her representing Black women. Yeah, no, she is the one. Yeah, she is the one, unfortunately, that positioned herself as how do you put it, as representing Black women. And obviously, like as I mentioned before, of course she is not every person. Of course um, she is not every Black woman or every woman for that matter. But unfortunately, as I've said millions of times, we can all pretend this, is not the truth. But the reality of the fact of a lot of the stereotypes associated with the Black community, Black men and women, are not positive. I see somebody in there saying, "What about Michelle Obama?" Michelle Obama was called all kinds of monkeys and all kinds of derogatory terms, even when she was in the presidency. This is a beautiful, elegant woman. So, if her, a beautiful, elegant woman that had all the prestige and was very classy, if she was even throwing those slurs with the way that she handled herself, how much more if we do act out of pocket do we have to contend with the repercussions? And that is all I'm saying. You can agree or disagree, but at the end of the day, everybody walking throughout this world, you are going to be judged. You're going to be judged. You're going to be, first impressions, all those things. We know that they are real. And her, a Black woman, a dark skinned, overweight Black woman, all these different things, she's already coming in with the industry, probably with a certain perception. And then when she acts a certain way, it's just another nail on the coffin. And like I said, that is all I'm saying. She probably was, she could be completely valid in her complaints and completely valid in what it is that she was saying. We don't really know what he said, she said. But even if she was right, the way she handled it made it to where she's probably not going to get what she wants, because she complained, she got angry, she threw everybody under the bus on that stage. And that's the best way to not have promoters call you back. Going on stage and saying, "Oh, these promoters are this, oh, these managers are this," or whatever. Going on live television or whatever, or just going on stage and openly like downing and making fun of the people that essentially manage your career is probably one of the best ways to undermine your success, and probably one of the best ways to burn bridges. That's what I'm saying. It's not that you can't talk back. It's not that you can't fight for yourself, but we should be more constructive about how to do it. And feeding into stereotypes, putting yourself as an aggressive, angry, loudmouth, Black woman, like doing that does not help. If anything, it may brand us in whatever particular situation, and then get it to where, okay, what we actually wanted is not going to happen. So yeah, that's my point. I know some of you guys are kind of getting on here kind of late. Yeah, and I do agree. It's like, I mean, Black people, like there's many of us, I think very few of us like actually fit into these stereotypes. Like everybody's different. Like there is no, yeah, everybody's different. Everybody has different characteristics. That's why I really hate sometimes how things are just so categorized, or how things are just so stereotyped. But the reason I talk about this is because this is the world that we live in. This is the reality that we live in. Even if you might be a person that, you're naturally compliant, but you can get loud if you need to, or you might be a person where no, you're a Black woman and you're not loudmouth at all. You're really cooperative, you're easy to get along with. That might be you. But the reality of the world that we live in is that as we go and we navigate, especially if we start to interface with other nationalities, other cultures, we start to go into other places where we have opportunities for gaining more wealth or gaining more influence, whatever. That's where we start to see those stereotypes even more so in our face, especially if we're working with people who have never really been around Black folks before. And that's when you start to see that those stereotypes, even if they're not spoken, it's already in that person's mind. And then if we're aware of that, if we're aware of like, okay, this is the way that people are already perceiving me, we can move accordingly. It's not that you necessarily have to change yourself, but it's just about being aware and managing yourself in such a way so that you're going to make decisions that are going to improve your situation, not undermine it. So, yeah, I see. Yeah, see, women, and it's unfortunate. Like we wish it'd be great if we could live in a world and we didn't have to worry about this or that, or going into a corporate setting and acting this way, or going into an all-white setting and acting this way, or going to the cookout and acting this way, or going to church and acting that way. Or it'd be great if you could just, nobody could ever judge anybody. First impressions weren't a thing. people could just be who they are and not ever have to think about the way they're being perceived. And you're right, you don't. Like, if you're just like a person that's like, I don't care, I don't care how I'm being perceived or judged, that's okay. Like, I totally respect that. But just what I'm saying is that in certain professional settings, in certain work settings, if you do take that mentality, if I don't care, no one's going to tell me what to do, I'm going to be fully me, I'm not going to act in a professional manner, I'm going to just act how I feel and be emotional, that's fine. But you're probably not going to get the results that you want. That's all I'm saying. So anyways, that's what I got on the topic. I do appreciate you guys coming here. And okay, so I will, like I said, I am all for detractors, but I'm not for anyone in here being disrespectful. So if you are disrespectful, then I will block you. If you have a difference of opinion, totally fine. But if you're disrespectful, I will block you. Yeah, I see. Yeah, so you said up till today, Michelle Obama is being misgendered, being called transgender. Yeah, like I said, she was all kinds of stuff. You're right. The man. Remember, there was like monkey comments, and they were in work. Like there was. She became under a lot of scrutiny. Her, a beautiful, classy woman, class act. I mean, Harvard educated, incredibly smart. Now you can, whether or not you agree or disagree with the politics, just her as a person and how she conducted herself, very, very, very respectable. And even with that, she still had to contend with stereotypes. So that's what I'm saying, Black woman, that if someone as classy as her still had to contend with those stereotypes in order to navigate and reach her level of success, how much more if we get in those scenarios and we act a fool or we just act on our feelings, will that undermine any progress that we can have? That's all I'm saying. We've heard the black tax, right? Talks about you have to do things 10 times better. You can agree or disagree with me, that's fine. But those of you who understand what I'm saying, get it. And like I said, especially when you start to navigate in different circles, then you just start to understand how things operate and that things aren't necessarily always equal. That's fine. If you learn how to navigate, you learn how to be aware, then you can still be okay. So that's all I got, you guys. That's all I got on this topic. Again, if you like the stream, be sure to hit the like button. Also, be sure to support the show. You can find Cash App and Mo. Make sure they also super chats are open. And you know what? I think I am going to let's see a few comments in here. Left from Motherland. Hey, what's going on? Everybody? You guys, so I think that's what I got for the day. If you guys are hopping on, no worries. You can go back and catch the replay. Stay tuned for other content, for other upcoming videos. Let me know in the comment section if you agree or disagree. And again, I say this not because I hate Black women or not because I think Black women are horrible. Quite the opposite. I think it's important that we use these kind of scenarios and use it as an opportunity to really talk about not only what's going on, but the realities of what it means to navigate in this real world. We all live in this real world. So like I said, we can pretend like we don't have perceptions or stereotypes, or we don't have certain things to contend with as a woman, as a Black woman. We can pretend that, but there is a reality that we all have to live in and face. And I think the sooner we do that, then the more successful we can actually be and the more prepared we can be at how to handle these different pressure points. So like I said, if you're coming in here late, no issues, go back and catch the replay and let me know what you think. If you agree with my assessment or if you disagree with my assessment. Overall, the reason I hate to see Black folks feuding online or just in general is because that's what the media likes to feed off of. I mean, there's actually even reports on this. I'd have to find one of them, but there's one in particular where it looked at response of it was an audience, right? And it looked at the response of I think it was like white on white crime. I think it was like I don't know if it was like a movie or something, but it was basically looking at when white people were like feuding versus when Black people were feuding. And it showed that there was a more positive, or there was a more neutral response when Black folks were feuding versus when it was white folks feuding. There was a more negative response from the audience. So there's been different studies and stuff to kind of suggest that, unfortunately, when Black folks are feuding, that's kind of what fuels the engine. entertainment wise. And I just think it's toxic. And I just think at the end of the day, it helps to again driving down the coffin and all the other negative things that are going on in the Black community. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. Like I said, just my 2 cents. It was a trending topic, so I wanted to be sure to kind of offer some perspective, and hopefully this makes sense to you guys. Again, shout out to TJ Ano for the $4.99 on the super chat. I do appreciate it. I see Dark Mr. during the show, yet magically act. Yeah, see, it's a Dark Mr. during Michelle, yet magically act right. Over to Condoleezza Rice. That's a whole nother topic, y'all. So anyways, guys, that's what I got. I appreciate you guys. Stay tuned for other topics. Stay tuned for other, for other videos. And we'll talk later, guys. Bye.